Now keep in mind, I live in the small town of Milford in Michigan, and I've heard some bizarre stories, but I wasn't too sure about what they were describing. A tall creature that creeps on 4 legs until startled, or entering chase, then proceeds to stand on 2. A tall, dark figure that looks like a dog. I thought, these people must be crazy. Deer can do some weird stuff. My friend recently described a story of an encounter of about a year earlier. My friend, let's say Sam, went outside to have a smoke around 12 midnight or maybe 1 a.m. in the morning. His yard has a hill that slopes down from his circle driveway all the way to a flat area near his basement door. If you walk out of the basement directly in the front, there's a pond, and to the left is a shed they use. At first, he noticed nothing when he walked out, but as he looked closer, he noticed a dark figure on all 4s. He took out his cell phone and shined his flashlight toward the creature. To his surprise, the thing stood up on 2 legs, screeched at him, and then ran off into the woods. He told us about his encounter the next morning and took us to the spot where he saw it. Sure enough, there were dog prints, large dog prints. That wasn't really unusual, though, because he lives next to a subdivision, and we've already helped his neighbors find their dogs 3 or 4 times since they've moved in, so we tried to shrug it off. He then brought me into the woods where the creature ran into, and there was clearly a path that something took to get through. As much as Sam tried to convince me, I tried to say it was a deer. That's until recently. On December 24th, I went for a drive to go to Walmart and pick up some beer just to relax and hang out with friends. Everything was particularly fine. The moon was out so you could see just a little bit, and there was no snow or rain, just a little dampness on the road from a previous rainfall about an hour beforehand. I was on my way back to my house and driving up a curly-hilled road up on top of the hill, the only one in the subdivision, and I noticed something in my neighbor's yard. Now, I see deer in the subdivision all the time, and I've actually hit one on occasion, so I decided to slow down. This thing was definitely close to the same size as a deer, so I didn't have any second thoughts, until I got close and it ran in front of the car. Normally when deer run in front of your car, they either freeze or they just run right by, and there are normally 2 or 3 of them. This was a single case, and when it ran across the road, albeit on 4 legs, it didn't run the same as a deer. When it ran, it didn't lift its head. It stuck low to the ground and looked like it was sniffing something. It then lifted its head and looked more like glared at me, and bolted off to my right, but not before shortly after stopping right out of my view. I could still see the figure standing there, but I couldn't make out what it was. All I could see was it standing on its hind legs, and what looked like staring at me. I kept trying to get my eyes to adjust from the bright of the headlights to the dark of the side of the road, but I just couldn't. It wouldn't happen. When I tried to turn my car around so I could shine my headlights at it, it bolted down the hill and into the woods, all while standing on 2 legs. I still remember the face I saw when the thing glared at me. It looked like a wolf, but was the size of a buck. It was massive, and that was the scariest moment of my life, and I've never seen anything like that before or after in person. I've Googled some information about it, and I found some things about the Michigan Dogman, but I don't want to be classified as one of these crazies. I can still see it standing on its hind legs looking at me in the dark in my mind when I close my eyes. I hope I never see this thing again. This story belongs to a friend of mine. He told me this once, and I simply have to tell it. My friend is of the Wakanukse heritage, a Native American tribe who settled the Pacific Northwest coast. He is quite the character. For one, he is a whopping 6'10", and has the blackest eyes you could imagine. He always has this frowning face going on, which makes him even more intimidating. He is everything but a bad guy. In fact, he is the most gentle of giants. He was working at a gas station in Grayland, Washington in 1992, and he pretty much always worked the graveyard shift from 11 to 7 a.m. Business wasn't exactly booming at night, so he was usually watching TV or reading magazines between customers. The area he lived and worked in was deeply associated with all things Native American. There was a potent sense of pride in the surrounding communities, but also a very distinct presence of superstition and old traditions. My friend was no exception. He was a firm believer of the ways of the old. This made his encounter even more terrifying. One night he was sitting, as usual, watching TV when a customer entered the gas station. The customer paid for his gas, a pack of smokes, and soda, and then he just returned to his car. Nothing unusual. But as my friend looked out the window toward the customer's car, he spotted what looked like a huge dog sitting by the edge of the woods. Now, the window is located on the side of the building, some distance from the sliding door, overlooking the pumps and the roof covering it. On the sides of the roof are strong halogen lights which shine into the gas station. This gives the gas station not only an eerie lighting with the blinds casting long striped shadows, but also blinds the teller to an extent. As he peered through the window, trying to focus on the dog, it was gone. He didn't think much of it. Even if it was a wolf, he was inside anyway. Wolves were common here, but this wolf would have been huge. He brushed it off and returned to watching the TV. A couple of hours go by, and not a single customer has entered since the last one. He was just about to refill some condiments when he heard a large thud coming from the back. It wasn't inside, he could hear that much, but it came from the back and behind the building where they kept the garbage. The gas station had been visited before by scavenging homeless, but my friend didn't really care. It wasn't his garbage, and it was just garbage. Let him take it. But it kept getting noisier. He decided to grab a flashlight and a gun from the office and circle around the back to tell whoever ventured there to leave. And he had had enough. His presence alone would have scared off anyone, but he wanted to feel safe just in case. He exited through the sliding doors and walked past the window he was just sitting by. As he turned the corner, he shines the light towards the dumpsters. As the cone of light hits the dumpsters, my friend instantly drops the flashlight and the gun. It's the huge dog he saw before, scouring through the garbage. It wasn't just a dog, though. It clearly stood on its hind legs, reaching the same height as himself. It couldn't be a bear, as it was too gaunt. The creature's eyes had been glowing in the light of the flashlight, making it even more terrifying. He ran inside the gas station, and he wasn't followed. He locked the door and stayed inside the whole night and quit the very next day. Now, my friend is convinced that he saw a skinwalker, a shape-shifting human of sorts that are a common occurrence in Native American lore and culture. But I'm pretty sure he saw what others know to be a dogman. Either way, it's just a really, really creepy story. I haven't told anyone besides some family members this. This happened when I was about 13 or so. It was summertime and I was on vacation with my parents. We had hit the road and driven quite a ways to visit my older sister who lived across the country in British Columbia, about 20 kilometers outside of Victoria. After spending some time together and sharing supper, we decided to call it a night. My parents slept in my sister's bedroom and she slept in the neighboring room with her small son. It's important to note a few things at this point. My mother is a round, short woman with very delicate feminine features. She has round glasses, and that night went to bed in a long blue nightgown. My sister, on the other hand, is very tall and athletically built, taking after my dad in regards to her facial features. She too has glasses, but unlike my mother, hers were square-shaped. She went to bed in a shorter orange and striped nightgown. These small but substantial differences are key. Now, since all of the bedrooms were full, I was given a blanket and pillow to sleep on the couch with. Of course, like any kid, I watched TV for a few hours, well into the night. Around 4 a.m., it dawned on me that we had plans for the next day, so I should try and get some rest. After tossing and turning for about an hour or so, I gave up and just laid on my back, staring at the stars visible from the nearby window. As the natural light flooded the room from the sun rising, I flipped through some photo albums. I did this for a while, not having slept at all the entire night. At this point, I was pretty bored and lonely, hoping someone would wake up soon just to talk to me. Around 8 a.m., I heard a door slowly open and someone came out into the hallway. At my sister's house, the living room is sunken in a small staircase of maybe 3 steps that leads to the raised kitchen and the dining room. The hallway is also in this raised area and connects to the bathroom and the bedrooms. In the living room, there is a doorless archway that leads down to the basement and the laundry room. This means that I could look up and see what was going on in the dining area from the couch. This person hummed a little and then was caught off guard by a table in the dining room. It was full of framed pictures of family my sister had on display. I don't know how to describe the way they looked at the photos besides saying they were bewildered by them, maybe even enchanted, letting out an occasional ooh and a ah. I could tell it was a woman, but I wasn't sure if it was my mother or sister. This was strange because, like I said, they looked alike but were also very distinguishable. I also felt this weird feeling because everyone in my family has seen these photos 1,000 times, and I'd even say they may own a few copies of their own as well. So why act so amazed by them? I said, "Hey, Mom, what are you doing?" in a nervous yet warm voice. No response. Okay then, it was my sister. "Hey, good morning. What are you making, dear sibling, for breakfast?" No response. I knew I was definitely loud enough. They definitely heard me for sure. That uneasy feeling in my stomach grew stronger now, and I had no idea why. The likeness of my sister and mother was there, so it wasn't like a stranger or something. Then I noticed something very off. They were wearing a knee-length blue and orange striped nightgown. Their height wasn't short, but it wasn't tall either, it was average. They had a muscular build, but could not be skinny either. The hair was the same color as both my sister and mother's, and so was the skin color. My heart skipped a beat, and I thought, who the hell is this? Maybe someone stayed overnight, but how could they have? I had laid right beside the front door all night. When they turned around and went to inspect another photograph on the wall near that staircase, their face made my heart sink. It was a hybrid of my mother and sister's most discernible features, with glasses that were round on the bottom and squared at the top. Their eyes were not my mother's or my sister's. They were very wide and unnerving and darted all around the walls very quickly, very excitedly. It was as if my mother and sister had been Frankensteined together into one person. Now, my knee-jerk reaction after seeing the face was to scooch my legs in and pretend I was sleeping. I could feel the veins in my neck beating very hard, and my breathing became very loud and labored. Whoever the hell it was came down the stairs and looked around the living room with that same excitement. I don't know how to explain how scared I was as it came closer to me. I thought maybe if I stayed quiet it would pass by me. I was also scratching and pinching myself now in case I was asleep without realizing it. The pain was very real. I was awake. The thing I watched with my eyes squinted took up an interest in a photo album I had left on the table very close to me. Then, probably the worst thing that could have happened. My sister's portable home phone rang. My sister had answered a call last night and had put the phone down on the couch between the wall and its cushions. The thing's face became very alarmed, and it turned in my direction and saw me and became very, very angry. I opened my eyes and looked at its face, and it just stared back. With my entire body trembling, I saw that its eyes were pure black. total darkness, like two huge pupils staring right at me and furious. It opened its mouth unnaturally wide and screamed, "No!" Then it turned and darted down the stairs to the basement where I heard the door slam shut, the whole time yelling, "No, no, no!" I stared at the archway for a long time, shaking and frozen, just digging my nails into my arm, begging to wake up because I was so afraid it would be back, wishing I was only dreaming. I literally could not move because I was so scared to get up in case it came back or was waiting at the arch, and I couldn't speak for the same reason. My brain just abandoned me with fear. An hour must have passed like that where I did not move. It had stopped yelling, and this was for some reason even scarier than when it had been yelling, because at least then I was sure it was downstairs and not slowly coming back up the stairs to fillet me alive. I then wondered why no one in the family was awakened by these screams. Then I heard the door open again from the hallway upstairs and stared at it, full of adrenaline at this point. It was my mom, exactly herself, in the right nightgown. She was humming as she put on some coffee and started making toast. Another door opened, my sister this time, the same as she had looked before heading off to bed. She and my mom talked for a bit, and I just stared at them. My sister eventually saw me staring at her over the banister and yelled, "Haha, what the hell? Why are you just staring at me? Why didn't you say something?" I replied back in a very shaky voice, I did. Twice. They just looked at each other as if to say, "Huh?" I told my mom I hadn't slept yet, and she said that was a big mistake, and etc., and complained about how I should have slept. I ate breakfast with them and then realized eventually I was truly awake and really had not slept at any point. I decided against my judgment to just tell them what had happened in case it came back and went upstairs to hurt them. They pretty much laughed at me and told me I had just fallen asleep or purely imagined it. They basically told me I was nuts. My sister told me to go sleep with my nephew and asked me to go try and fix the screen in her room, as it had somehow fallen out of the window onto the floor that night. On my way to her room, I walked by the table in the dining room and noticed that all of the frames were moved into different places than they were the night before. I pointed this out very excitedly, like, "See? See?" And my sister just shrugged it off and said her son liked looking at them. I kept pressing the issue, so my sister, much to my hysterical protest, went to the basement and in every room just to make sure that I'd shut up about it. She checked around but didn't see anything unusual. I laid in the bed but still didn't sleep a wink. I still think about this night from time to time and did not ever sleep on that couch again, opting instead to sleep in the floor of the room that my parents were in and always locking the door. I have been questioning much of reality ever since.